Hello everybody, thank you so much for watching today's video. My name is Kelsey Taylor and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I've read in 2023. This year has been crazy. It's been a year that's been going by so fast. Like, I feel like I haven't gotten a grasp of anything. But we have a lot of books to get through. I'm going to go through it on my phone here. I listed out the books each month this year as I was reading them, and it kind of gives me flashbacks. Like when I see a book that I read earlier this year, it's so interesting how like books can really change your life, and books can really add so much nostalgia. Like when I look at a book, it makes me so like it makes me think of like a certain memory when I bought the book. The first book that I read this year is Legends. Wait, first off, I want to get to how many books I actually read. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I still can reach my goal, so I'm not gonna give up. So the first book that I read this year is Legends and Lattes. So this book is super cute. I absolutely love it. I really enjoyed the characters in this book. They were very sweet and very warm, and it had one kind of like a little plot, I would say, but it was quite minor. It wasn't that major. And I would give this one probably 3 out of 5 stars, just because I didn't absolutely love it to smithereens, but I liked it enough. I enjoyed it. It was a good read. The next book that I read, A Room of One's Own, I feel like I read this one like 2 years ago because it feels like forever since I read it. It is an excellent book about feminism, about women in fiction. I highly recommend this one. If you want to start with Virginia Woolf, just like start with this book because it's very short. It doesn't take too much time to read, and it was a very eye-opening and very profound book, and so I recommend this one if you want to start off with Woolf. The next one is A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. I absolutely adore this one. I was reading it when I was obviously on the double-decker going to the British Library, and it just gives me good memories whenever I think about it. And it's a really nice book about Paris, about this old man, Hemingway, writing about his memories in Paris while he's in Chicago, and he talks about his love life, and it's just so sweet, and it really values simplicity, and he's so good with detail. I love the way he writes. He just makes, you know, the mundane like super like, I don't know, like it's a big deal, and then it's sweet, and that it's the little things that matter in life, and I just love books that encourage that mindset. For February, I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Millers. I met the author right before I finished this book. I read it within 1 week, and it was pretty good. I read it everywhere. I read it in the park, I read it at the British Library, I read it on the bus on the way to charity shops in Stoke Newington, and I really enjoyed this book. It was pretty good. It wasn't like, it was pretty hyped in February, and it was all over London, like everywhere, but it didn't really meet my expectations. It wasn't my ultimate favorite book. It was a good book to read, and it's a great book to read if you're in your 20s as well and you feel a bit lost in life, because it's really about these young people and this couple, and you know, friendships and all the things you go through as a young person. So I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite. I'll probably give it 3 out of 5 stars. Alright, the next one, I read this one in Romania, so this one gives me great memories. Things We See in the Dark by Kirsty Logan. I found my copy, I think it was at a Waterstones, yeah, in Covent Garden, and I really love this book. It's so poetical and dark and grotesque, yet in the most beautiful way, if that makes sense. You see the poetry in it. So I did enjoy this book. It was really interesting. Definitely something I've never read anything like it before, but it was a good read. I did enjoy it. So that one I would probably give 4.1 out of 5 stars. Next one is A Spy in the House of Love. This book gives me good memories too. Reminds me of Piccadilly Waterstones. That one is like the biggest bookstore in all of Europe, I heard, and I bought this one there. And it's so this one I think it was by Ananas Nin is her name. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. It gives like 1920s female fatale vibes, if you're all about that. She's quite a pioneer, like for her time, like when she wrote this book, like Reputation era vibes. This book that I read is Sweet Dark by Savannah Brown. Savannah Brown is one of my favorite poets. She is so sweet, so kind, and I have so much respect for her. She's really amazing, and I really enjoyed this book. This one was a 5 out of 5. And A Spy in the House of Love was, I think, a 4.8. I really enjoyed it. For March, I read Tomorrow Sex Will Be Good Again. This was pretty good. I bought this one in Waterstones too. I read it pretty fast, probably within like a few hours, but it wasn't my favorite, so that one I'll probably give 2 out of 5. Next one is Lie With Me. This one was translated from French, and this book was absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful romance, and it's so delicate, but it can tear at your heart. I want to give this one probably 4 out of 5 stars, or 3.9. No, I think 4 stars. It was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. And this one gives me great memories because this one I read when I was on the airplane to Romania. Right, so the next one, Swimming in the Dark. This one, Swimming in the Dark. Very profound book, just like the other one, Lie With Me. It gives off the same vibes. It takes place in Poland, and so it touches on some really hard subjects, but very beautiful writing. It was probably one of my most favorite books of the year. This one was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Alright, so the next one was Flat Rock Poetry. This is a poetry book that I literally found on a whim when I was going to the charity shop in Stoke Newington. It's called Mind, and it's one of my favorite charity shops to go to. And this book was just sitting there, and for some reason I read a few pages of it. I picked it up randomly and I read a few pages of it, and I just absolutely fell in love. So yeah, this was probably my second favorite poetry book of the year. Next book, Foster by Claire Keegan. This is by an Irish author, and you know, I love Irish authors. I really want to go to Ireland because a lot of Irish authors, I'm already known talking Irish, a lot of Irish authors are my favorites, like Sally Rooney. Claire Keegan is from Ireland, and they write these beautiful books about simplicity and little things in life, and how you can find the beauty in it. So Foster is a book that gives very much Anne Green Gable vibes, so if you're all about that, you would really enjoy this one. The next one is The Inseparables. This book, The Inseparables, was a beautiful story about friendship, love, about, I don't know, it was a simple French story that I just really craved when I was at the airport coming to the US, and so I just needed something to read that was short, simple, and just beautiful writing. So this one was very nice. This one was probably 3 stars out of 5. I wasn't too crazy about it, but it was a nice story. Right, so what I read for the month of April is Sappho. So I read Sappho poetry, really amazing. Highly recommend Sappho. That one, 5 out of 5. Next one I read Marriage: A History. This one was very interesting and I really enjoyed it. I loved how it really dissected the 1950s era, because I feel like the housewife and the breadwinner era was very romanticized, and it actually wasn't as wonderful as we think it was, and there was a lot of like fights going on, a lot of abuse back then. Rate that one probably 4 stars. The next book, The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. This one was very sad. This one made me cry. This one was such a tearjerker, and it was heartbreaking to read this one because it really goes deep into how we all feel and how lonely we feel and how loneliness really can kill us and just make us feel so miserable and feel like we are in a well of loneliness. She goes through so many up and downs, but it's a really interesting read. It's different for me, and this book was actually banned when it was published back in 1928. I kind of wanted to read it just to see like what was then why it was banned, but I can kind of see why, because it kind of portrays a woman in a masculine sense. That one I would probably rate. It wasn't the best book I read, but it was good, so I'll probably rate that one 3.5. Next one I read was the iconic Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This one was, it's not for everybody, but if you look at this book in a very poetical sense, then it can be beautiful. If you don't look at it in a poetical sense, it's actually quite creepy. Like, it kind of gives you the ick. It was really like different. I've never read anything like it. And the next book that I want to read is My Dark Vanessa. I have that on my TBR. I would probably give it 4 stars because it was pretty good. It was a really good classic, but it wasn't like my favorite, but I just wanted to read it because I hear so much about it. Next one I read was Vile Bodies by Evelyn Waugh. This one was pretty good. I really love the 1920s flapper girl era. I think it was a really fun, like funky, frisky time. For May, I read Notes from the Underground. That one was pretty good. That one's by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The next book is Dowry of Blood. I really enjoyed this book. I love vampires. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was beautiful writing. I highly recommend this one if you love the Victorian Gothic era with a bit of romance, grotesque. Like, it was a wonderful book. I had such a good time reading it. The next one I read was Macbeth by William Shakespeare. I really enjoyed that one. You all know what that one's already about. What I read in June, The Girls by Emma Cline. That one was pretty good. It was great depiction on girlhood, friendship. Pretty good book. I really enjoyed it. It was hardcore summer vibes too, and that's something that I needed during the summer. So the next one that I read is Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare, and then Rebecca by Melier. I like to say her name. I think that's how you pronounce it. Rebecca, I read that book because I heard Taylor Swift wrote her song Tolerate It after she read this book. So it's like, it's just about a husband that just tolerates the wife, doesn't give his heart to her like she wants, and she's just kind of a upset, frustrated housewife. So if you're going for those vibes, there you go. July, Closer Baby Closer by Savannah Brown, 5 stars. I have no idea how to pronounce this, but it was really interesting poetry. Not for everybody, but it was good because I heard so many other people like worship this book, but it didn't really do that for me. I read this one in foils, and during the summer in London. It was alright. The next book that I read was the Lana Del Rey poetry book, which I think the title name is like really bizarre, and like, Lana, like, what were you thinking? But this one, it really disappointed me because it wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be. Like, Lana Del Rey, like, you're the mother, like, girl, like, I thought you're gonna be so much better, like, with her books, but it wasn't that good, and it really makes me sad. Like, I thought it was gonna be so much better, but it was alright. It was probably the worst poetry book I've read. I think she does a lot better poetry in her songs than she does writing it in a book. Mrs. S by Kay Patrick. So this one I really enjoyed. I read it in the summer, and it just gives me really good vibes because I was reading it on the way to the British Library, on the bus, and I read it everywhere throughout London, in a coffee shop, at home. I really enjoyed it, and I got a signed copy of that book too, which was fun. Next month is August, so I read De Profundis I think that's how you say it, by Oscar Wilde. This book was incredible. It's about love, heartbreak, and Oscar Wilde is literally just venting about his ex-lover. But that one was a 5 for sure. Absolutely, I love Oscar Wilde. He is such an iconic person, and I love his fashion. Like, I don't know if you saw it in one of his pictures, but he's literally wearing bows on his shoes. The next book that I read is Crush by his name, but it's right here. It was a really deep, brutal poetry book, but absolutely in the most beautiful way. It was about love and hurt and sadness and happiness and just like every human emotion. It just dived so deep into it and it really crushed me. Next is Girls Can Kiss Again. I really thought this was an interesting, kind of like a pop culture take on womanhood and what it was like to grow up as a Gen Z kind of millennial in the 2000s. It's really 2000 vibes, this book. Next book, In the Margins by Elena Ferrante. This one was pretty good. It was really hyped. I thought it was gonna be a lot better than it was. It wasn't the best book I read in the world. She had like a few deep like messages in the book, but it wasn't like mind-blowing, so I would give it like maybe a 3.4. Next one, Edgar Allan Poe short story. So this was my first attempt in August to read some Edgar Allan Poe, because as you know, I lived literally on the same street as Edgar Allan Poe for like 6 months in London, and that was an absolute dream. I absolutely love Stoke Newington. I want to move there again. But his short stories are amazing. Next one is October, and you already know I read cover to cover Dracula by Bram Stoker. I absolutely love this book. It was amazing. My camera is flashing, so now I'm going to talk a little bit faster. But that was amazing. And you know guys, I didn't read anything for November and it's December 4th and I still haven't read anything. But I don't know why, but my reading capacity just cut off completely and I'm not reading anything at all. That's all the books that I read for so far. We still have the rest of December, but that's all the books that I read so far this year. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. I love you all so much. Have a blessed day wherever you are. À bientôt. Au revoir. Mwah.